Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, Chicago Bears fans from around the world. This is GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia. Before we bring Greg in, just a quick programming note. Tonight, Buffon 55 will be on at 7 p.m. They usually do their show on Wednesday, but in order to give you people more time to watch it on demand, we decided to go Monday. And then after that, it is the season-ending episode of South Burbs Hitmen. The co-host of that show will lament the terrible season by the Chicago White Sox. There's a lot of lamenting going around. Let's see how Greg Gabriel is handling the latest loss by the Chicago Bears. Greg, you've been lamenting, you've been throwing things. What's been going on?
No, I'll tell you though, that one was the hardest one though. And just like the Tampa Bay game, that's a game that, in the case of Denver didn't win. In the case of Tampa didn't win. The Bears lost. So I mean that's on them. When Denver got their first second half score, I started to get a bit of a bad feeling.
Me too.
And the reason being is, I know I work with Sean Payton. He's a very smart coach. Things aren't going the way he wants this year, but he's very, very astute. And you look at the Chicago secondary, and there was the third team nickel in there, and two second team corners in there, and a backup safety. I mean, you got to be licking your chops at that.
Indeed.
And it showed up. The defense played relatively well in the first half, but from about the middle of third quarter on, it showed up. And for some reason, and I guess I'll never know why, the play calling, which was, I thought, through the first 2/3 of the game, pretty darn good, all of a sudden got real conservative. And that was like, why are you taking your foot off the pedal? You got to go into the kill.
All right. Yeah, it was indeed some odd play calls in that second half. And I guess we really should start with what many people think was the big play of the game. It's the 4th and 1 situation. The game is tied. Eberflus takes a timeout, and we expect to see Cairo Santos come in and kick the go-ahead field goal with about 2 minutes.
Which is what I would have done. I would have field goal. Take the points and then hope your defense does something. But if they don't, you still got some time to come back.
Yep. That's old school thinking, and it's usually right most of the time.
That's because I'm pretty old.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've always been a proponent of take the points, take that lead, and test your defense out. They got a 3-point lead. So anyway, that wasn't the decision by Matt Eberflus. A surprising decision. He decides to go out there out of the shotgun position and run the ball with Khalil Herbert. And then the next 2 replays are the offensive line, Greg. You see here that left guard Cody Whitehair gets stood up almost immediately, and Darnell Wright, number 58, the right tackle, gets late to the incoming linebacker and whiffs on him completely, and there's just nowhere for Herbert to run.
Yeah, there's a combo. It starts off as a combo block where he's chipping on the outside guy that Kmet has, and then he's supposed to get to the linebacker. In fairness, the linebacker's shooting. So, I mean, you'd have to have been Superman to get there. Personally, I didn't like the play call. A situation like that, do a play action and then short pass or do an outside run, because everybody knows, everybody in the building thinking you're going to go inside. And that's how, if you look, they're all slanting towards the middle, and they're blitzing both linebackers. They're on a run blitz situation. So if you fake it inside and try to go outside, even have Justin go outside, you got a good chance of making that. But that said, I still would have kicked the field goal.
Yeah. Tim, I think with this question expresses our frustration. Greg, why does Getsy keep calling these stupid shotgun runs on 4th and short instead of letting your big-bodied quarterback sneak it under center? They've been awful in these situations, and he adds that whole 4th and short sequence was absolutely atrocious. Coaching, either call the timeout and kick the field goal, or don't call the timeout and run the play. I don't have a problem so much with them calling the timeout to talk things over. What do you think?
No, I don't have a problem with that either. I mean, especially when you look at time left on the clock, you got to get the right situation. It's that you could have taken the lead. We're talking after the fact.
Yeah.
But who's to say they would have got a touchdown even if they got a first down? But they would have taken some time off the clock. That's for sure. So, a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Coaching staff's got to live with that one,
right?
But at the same time, the defensive players got to be held accountable too. But part of it is, like I said, when you got basically, except for Brisker, all reserves in there, another team is going to go after those guys. It's not like Russell Wilson can't play quarterback in this league.
All right.
And they've got some good receivers. So, it's sad, is what it is. I thought for sure for about a little over a half a game, we were going to have a nice show today. But
I thought so too. I was really looking forward to it. I woke up this morning. Oh, damn.
What the fuck?
Exactly. So, question for you. 2 weeks ago, you were really down on Justin Fields. Then last week he didn't do himself any favors with having a 99-yard effort against the Kansas City Chiefs. But yesterday, he really showed his the possibility of what he can be consistently in this league. 28 out of 35, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, that one costly interception, unfortunately. He didn't rush much. He had 4 rushes for 25 yards, and he was sacked 3 times and lost 1 fumble. Assess the Justin Fields performance from yesterday and tell us, do you think that it is still possible that Justin Fields can prove to the Chicago Bears organization that he is worthy of returning next season as the number 1 quarterback?
Well, I'll answer the last part of your question first, and that is he's got to continue to do that. That can't be a one-game flash. The play calling helped him. They were doing some different things on offense. They're doing some crossing routes and some stuff they hadn't been doing in the first 3 games. They were doing yesterday, which was nice to see. I commented on X yesterday. I said, it's almost been like 7-on-7, and the defensive 7 isn't there. That's how wide open the receivers were. So. And that was nice to see. It was refreshing. And he was spreading the ball around. They were all getting touches. But Komet and DJ had especially good games. Justin got the ball out of his hand quickly. He showed poise. He threw with accuracy. I mean, his passing was pinpoint. He completed 16 passes in a row. And which turned out to be a record, and then the incompletion's a Hail Mary.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Then I think he came out, and then the first in the second half, I think the first 3 through in the second half were complete. So throw out that Hail Mary, he was close to 20 in a row. And then, the roof caved in. And like I said, I think I posted on X, I said, don't get conservative. You gotta stay aggressive. And they did anyway. They got too damn conservative, I thought.
What do you think about Cornelius's comment here? He writes, it's hard to have a franchise quarterback when the coaching is bad.
Well, I mean, that's a good comment, but hey, some of this has been on the field. Let's be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he has not played well. You think from second year in the system, from year 2 into year 3, he's going to take a step. Things that were weaknesses last year you thought would turn into at least semi-strengths this year, and that hasn't been the case. So Some of it is on him. Could some of it be coaching too? Of course. The play calling has a lot to do with it, especially if it's not creative and you're doing things that is expected by the defense. So they're ready for it, and it's going to make anybody look poor.
Yeah. Couple of similar comments I want to read to you. Mike Ibsen says Justin has to play well against a good defense, not against the garbage defense Denver trotted out Sunday. Let's see how he does against Ron Rivera on Thursday. And then James follows that up with Denver's giving up 70 the week before, so be prepared for Justin to regress against Washington. And that leads to my question is, was there really improvement from Justin Fields, or is this Denver defense so damn bad that it would make anybody look good?
Well, no,
that's a bad thing.
Denver was sending a lot of pressure now. They were blitzing a lot and doing things to create pressure because, the word on the street is Fields doesn't handle pressure well, and that's when he makes mistakes. So they were throwing the pressure at him. So he stepped up to the plate. You can't take the good performance away from him. I don't care who they're playing. Yeah, Denver gave up 70, but that team that scored 70 at them got their ass kicked by Buffalo by 28 yesterday.
How about that?
48-20.
Wow.
So, it's in this league, last week doesn't mean shit. And people try to do that. You're game planning for the team you're playing that week. And what happened the week before means absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each game has its own identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you hopefully one of the things I wanted to ask you about Justin Fields' performance is that it was difficult for him to run the ball. And so it appears that defensive coordinators looked at the tape over the offseason and have figured out, they've told their defensive ends, do not lose containment. Do not let him go outside. And so they've effectively, at least now, until another idea perhaps by the offense, they've effectively cut off Fields' running capabilities. It's going to be on scramble plays where he's going to make the big yards. But on design plays, it appears that that's not going to work any longer. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, but they're also assigning a spy.
Yeah.
So it's linebacker, and wherever Fields goes, you go.
Mm-hmm.
So they're changing up their scheme, and it's obviously got to be an athletic linebacker. Yep. It's happened every game. So and that's not going to change until Fields does something else.
Mm-hmm. Looks like my dog is crying, and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. What's wrong with you? Are you upset with the Bears? Let me play a quick commercial, and no, it looks like he's going to settle down. Sit there. When he barks at me, he needs to go out. I got to let him out. I'll play a quick commercial and be right back. Okay?
Sounds good.
Here we go. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, this one. What was the motivation to get into scouting?
I guess I've been analytical in that area, like even when I was like a kid. That's Forte's first touchdown, and he autographed it. That's the Pro Bowl players 1 year. All those are our picks. So it's Briggs, Nate Vasher, Tommy Harris. Two things, the bigger ones on top, those were gifts from Parcells when we went to the Super Bowls that he gave all the scouts. It's the 85 Bears. The Bears gave us that. That Ted Phillips gave us. It's opening night at the new Soldier Field. That's Devin's touchdown in the Super Bowl. Devin autographed that. But this is our first draft class.
I've got more tape that I shot at your house. One of these days, I'm going to sit down and edit that together. When we were down in the basement, you showed me the old 16 millimeter projector, and you shared stories. Yeah, boy, oh boy, great stuff. All right, where were we? Let's talk. Let's finish our discussion on Justin Fields. What are your expectations against a really good Washington Commanders defense? One that is, we talk about Denver bringing pressure, or Chico is going to bring the pressure too, and he's going to do it with some very talented pass rushers.
They got as good a defensive line as there is in the National Football League. And obviously the strong point of this Bears team is not the offensive line. Now, there is a possibility that Tevin could be back this week. He's served his 4 weeks on IR. I know he's been running along the sideline. I don't know if he's been practicing. They don't have to report that.
Right.
So, I'm going to say it's 50-50 or less because it's a short week, but there is that possibility there. But they're going to be tough. I mean, the guards got to handle those two tough defensive tackles. They got too good. And like I said, that's as good a front four as there is in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. Their offense, if the Bears defense could stop anybody, their offense, I don't think is a problem. But here, I watched some of that game yesterday, the Philly-Washington game. The game was in Philly, and Washington gave them everything they could handle before they lost in overtime. So, I hope that they can come out like they did on yesterday and start off faster. Who knows if you're going to have anybody in the secondary back. It's really just 4 days difference between yesterday and Thursday as far as, so are you going to have Jalen Johnson coming off a hamstring ready? You're going to have Eddie Jackson coming off a foot injury ready? I would say that's highly doubtful. But and there's really only 1 day of practice, and that's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a tough turnaround for this team. Let's talk about the wide receivers. One of the great things about yesterday's game is that we saw DJ Moore used the way we've all envisioned. He was targeted 9 times, caught 8 passes, 131 yards, a touchdown. By the way, that touchdown, Gene Stenatori, the official CBS hired to explain the rules, he doesn't know the rules. DJ Moore, his left leg or right leg hit the pylon, and that counts as 1 foot down, and he had the left foot down. And Gene said, the pylon doesn't come into play on that. He was wrong, wasn't he? Or am I wrong?
The rules are crazy in this league. Supposedly got it. Now, the left foot, I thought from when they were showing that view from the end zone, the other end zone, it looked like the left foot did not touch the ground. But when they showed the original replay, which was more of a side view, it looked like the left foot skimmed the ground.
Okay.
And, the officials are going to see that, and they didn't overturn the call. So regardless of what Gene thinks, it was called a touchdown. It could have gone either way. I personally thought it was a touchdown. But I think if they overturned it, they could have done that. But it would have been, and reality is it would have been too hard to overturn.
Yeah. All right, so let me get to Cole Kmet's performance. He caught 7 passes on 9 targets, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a quarterback sneak, by the way. They brought that play back as if to prove to everyone that play can work. We can't pick up a first down with Cole in the center. To me, this was a huge positive about Sunday's disappointing loss is that you got 2 very important pass receivers involved in the game. And Darnell Mooney, I believe, caught 5 passes and got involved as well. So I got to tell you, it appears, and this is a very superficial statement, I realize that, but it appears that this team might be better off without Chase Claypool in the locker room. Your thoughts on the Chase Claypool situation?
Oh, I don't know if it has anything to do with Chase in the locker room, but they played better on the field. Mm-hmm. And EQ made some plays. Mm-hmm. And that one catch he made was a hell of a catch. So, but let's get back to, let's Kmet first. That's what Kmet should be doing every week.
Yes.
It should be a focus of the offense to get him the ball. He's sure-handed, and he's a bitch to bring down.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Jason Kelsey who's going to get you 20 yards. I just speaking of Kelsey, I can't figure out why nobody can defense this guy. He's always wide open. I mean, nobody within yards of him. And it's like, how do they not cover this guy? They know he's going to get thrown to at least 10 times a game.
Yes. I don't get it. I would have my, top safety just following him all everywhere,
Right. Yeah. But it's baffling how, and it can't be his great route running because a lot of times, like say, he comes off the line of scrimmage, he's all by himself.
Yeah,
like,
indeed.
What the hell are you doing? But anyway, Kmet should be doing that every week. So he's got to be a focus of the offense. That's got to be part of your game plan.
Yeah.
The ball. That, like I said, I had no complaints with the play calling for the first 2/3 of the game. They're spreading the ball around.
Yep.
The run good. The runs were good. I mean, hey, we're happy.
Yep.
We thought we were going to have a good show today. And then, everything went to shit. But
Greg, at one point, I counted 10 different Bears had touched the ball, and this was in sometime early mid-third quarter. Yeah, 10 different Bears. That was beautiful.
That's a great thing. Now, as far as Claypool, and I've always stood up for Claypool. And part of the reason I stood up for Claypool is because I know there's people in Hallis Hall that make decisions were standing up for Claypool based on conversations I had.
Okay.
And I know what his talent was coming out of college, and he's still that talented.
Mm-hmm.
There's something missing, and it's from here up. It's not the physical part. It's in the brain. I don't know what it is. Justin said, we talk all the time, and I tell him these things he's got to work on. I don't know if you saw that quote from Justin. And
I did.
To me, that was telling. So I think he's liked by his teammates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's liked by his coaches. I can't tell you what the front office thinks. It turns out to be a wasted trade. So that's a black mark against Ryan. And I know back in January, he said, if I had to do it all over again, I would have done it.
Right.
So it didn't work out the way they wanted. That does happen. I mean, you know what? We made our fair share of mistakes when I was there too, but though there are a lot less than the one good moves we made.
Indeed.
So it's, do I think he'll get traded? I don't know if anybody will give anything for him. Because what they're going to say is, why should I give up something when they're going to cut him?
Yeah, exactly. He is going to be released by the Chicago Bears. That appears to be his future. And just for people who may not know, after the game yesterday, Matt Eberflus was asked a series of questions about Chase Claypool. Why wasn't he on the sideline and so forth? And then he said that he was not given permission to go home. Today, on one of his paid-for radio appearances, he said that after the game, he was, the word he used wasn't flustered, but he was kind of, just coming off the emotional loss and so forth. People are firing questions, and he said he misstated. The Bears did indeed tell Chase Claypool to go home yesterday. And actually a media relations person for the Bears started to tell people or reporters that in the locker room yesterday. So the whole situation, on top of the Allen Williams situation, on top of the quarterback making comments about the coaching staff, Greg, in your experiences, working for the Bears, following the Bears, have you ever seen such dysfunction over such a short period of time?
In all honesty, no. And we had it in 2003. You go back to 2003, we lost 5 out of our first 6. Now, 2001, we came in 2001 with the idea that because the Bears had been terrible the previous years and the previous player personnel regime was let go, and led by Mark Catley, and I think in fairness to Mark, may he rest in peace, was that Mark wanted out of Chicago. He had some problems with the media here, and it got very, very personal, and he wanted the hell out of here.
Wow.
And it was, a change was needed. And we came in, we were told, because we didn't come in until June, so we were told that, things got to stay status quo for the 01 season. Mm-hmm. So you can't make a coaching change in June. So,
right.
But we were under the impression that we could make a change after the season. So that's our thought process through the first half of the season. And we're researching people to potentially interview at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And, doing a very thorough job on top of having to go out on the road and scout players and everything else. Well, lo and behold, we start winning games. We end up winning the division. Mm-hmm. And wasn't changing the coach. You had to give him an extension, which we knew wasn't the right thing to do. But how do you just can't do that? The guy wins 12 games and 12, 13 games, you can't say, see ya, but the next year it started going downhill. And then, I think the first game of the year in 2003, we lost like 49-7 out in San Francisco or something like that. We lost 5 out of our first 6. So it was very, very similar to what you're seeing right here, right now. And Indeed. So I've lived it. I know what it's like, but I don't think there was ever a thought during the year that, and I'll go back a little bit, because after that 49-7 loss to San Francisco, I said, Jerry, you got to let him go, meaning Dick Geron. Mm-hmm. And he says, no, it's just not the right thing to do. I can't do it. And he, we played through the season, and we got into the second half of the season, and we knew it was going to be awful. So again, we were in research mode on people. But the big thing about changing a coach, and I got a ton of questions on Twitter yesterday, and there's people just commenting, they all got to be fired right now. Okay, I get it. You're unhappy. You're pissed. They've lost, 55 games in a row, something like that. And you want change. Here's the question, and nobody has the answer. Who the fuck are you going to replace him with? Excuse my French. Mm-hmm. Because it's somebody on the staff. Who's qualified on this staff to be the coach? Some people said Hightower. Well, that would be the only guy left. He's a coordinator, and he's been a coordinator for a long time. Special teams coordinator. Does he have the leadership skills that are needed to be a head coach and oversee all three phases of the game? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know, because I don't know the man.
Right.
So it's a very, very hard thing to do. If you had somebody on the staff that could do it, that'd be different. But when you don't, then it's like, what are we going to do? So somebody says to me, well, bring back Lovey. Well, I love Lovey, but let's look at Lovey's career. Since Lovey left here, he's had 3 head coaching jobs, and he's failed in all 3 of them. Is he all of a sudden going to find magic? Now, he wouldn't change the scheme or anything, because it's his scheme, and he'd probably have Hoke along with himself run the defense. And, Hoke was here on Lovey's staff for a few years. So, he's very, very familiar with it. And he's been a coordinator in the league. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, I think it was at Houston, he was a coordinator for a number of years. The offense, who are you going to have run the offense if you change offensive coordinators at this time of the year? Janocko? Well, the best of my ability, this is the highest position Janocko's held as a coach at the NFL level, being the quarterback coach. So who's to say he can even handle that situation? I'm not saying he can't, but do you understand where I'm going with all this?
Absolutely.
So it's like, hey, it is what it is. If you had a guy on the staff who had that experience, then, it'd be a lot easier to do it. Let's take Indianapolis last year. The owner decides he wants to make a change. He had nobody on that. Well, he actually had some people on that staff that he could have done it, but he brings in an ex-player, Jeff Saturday, who's never coached a day in his life. And why did he do that? Because he was a great leader. And he hoped that the leadership skills would help. It didn't. It was still a disaster.
So that would be, Mark says Olin Kreutz. That would be kind of a similar situation. We all love, or most of us love, Olin Kreutz, but him taking over a head coaching job, an interim head coaching job, that probably would be a disaster. Sorry, Olin.
No, I hate probably. I don't think that was a fair shot to do that for
Jeff Saturday. Yeah.
And you're doing the same thing with Olin. Would Olin demand respect? Yes. But now, and you got Hope to potentially run the defense. You'd still have to hire somebody. But here's the thing, too, going forward. Let's just say, okay, Olin took over and he wins 6 games. Okay. You can't just give him the job the next year. You can't say, okay, here you go. We're going to give you a 5-year contract. It don't work that way. You got to go through back to square one and go through the whole hiring process. You've got to interview, a minimum of 2 minority coaches. And Olin might come, I don't know, because he's half Polynesian. I don't know if he would count as a minority coach.
I think he would. I forgot what it's called. Pacific Hawaiian.
Yeah.
There's some
his
term.
Mom is his dad's German.
Okay. One of the things
you got to go. In other words, you got to go through that the regulatory NFL hiring process. Now, could you think I want to give this guy the job? Yeah, you can do that, but you can't run a sham on your thing. And here's the important thing. It's not just him. It's who the hell is he going to hire as his assistants?
Right.
Because that's the key. And having never coached outside of Carmel Catholic High at Mundelein, what's his knowledge of coaches around the league and, who to hire?
Right. One of the things that I posted on social media, I think Ryan Poles can be held accountable for choosing a head coach and two coordinators who didn't have experience in the job that they were hired to do here in Chicago. And I'm not saying that that's a verboten, but it does put you into a position where you've got your triad of decision makers making huge decisions and not having had those life experiences as a head coach or as a coordinator before making those decisions. I'm not saying that's a deal killer, but it does hurt, and it's really hurting now. You had one guy who couldn't live up to the responsibility of being a coordinator for whatever reason. We can speculate whatever, but now he's gone. You've got a offensive coordinator who has never worked with a quarterback like Justin Fields. He's only worked with Aaron Rodgers at the NFL level, or at least for the last several years. And then you have a head coach who has never been a head coach before. So I think that was a no-no for Ryan Poles. He should have said one of these coordinators, Matt, has to be somebody with NFL experience at that position. What do you think of that?
Well, it's good thoughts. I'm going to just mention a couple things.
Please.
Number one, contractually speaking, the general manager hires the head coach. The head coach hires the coordinators. Okay, so and unless it's not specifically in his contract, that's how it works. So now, in saying that, during the interview process, he's asked, what's your staff going to be?
Right.
And he was on record as saying, wait a minute, now you got to let a dog out. Now I got to let a dog out. 1 second.
Okay. Chicago's Finest is telling me that Alan Williams was Leslie Frazier's defensive coordinator in Minnesota, so he had experience as a defensive coordinator. So Chicago's Finest, thanks for letting me know that. So I stand corrected on that. I'll just let Greg know once he puts on his ear pods here. Greg, I've been corrected real quickly. Apparently, Alan Williams was DC for Leslie Frazier back in the Vikings days. Anyways, please go ahead.
Okay, so, but he had worked with Alan Williams. Alan Williams was his DB coach at Indianapolis for the 4 or 5 years Flus was there. So we had a good feeling with that. I personally thought that Flus was going to be more involved in the defense than he was until just the last couple of weeks. But then on the offensive side, he specifically wanted somebody who ran that Shanahan offense. And so that was Getsy. As you recall, he brought in Pep Hamilton to interview for the job. And he basically told Pep, Pep had a good interview, and I talked to Pep right after. Not exactly what I'm looking for the offensive playbook, so to speak. So, Pep doesn't get the job. Now, look at hindsight. And it's not that I want to stick up for Pep, but Pep had been a coordinator at the NFL level a couple times for multiple years, been a head coach, be at the XFL, and had been a coordinator at the college level. So and I worked with him when he was a quarterback coach here, and then the XFL when he was a head coach.
Okay.
And I wonder what the hell my dog's barking at. Oh, well.
Chase Claypool. I'm sure Chase Claypool's in the neighborhood somewhere.
Probably. So let's say Pep was the OC and this was going on. Well, I wouldn't be happy with Pep if this was going on and he was the OC, but he would be a guy that could take that head interim job. And you know you're in good hands because he's got the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of fans who would love to see Pep Hamilton here. And Jordan just asked a question. Can you confirm, Greg, that the relationship between Pep and Jim Harbaugh is amicable after their Michigan tenures? Would he work with Jim again? And just for the record, those who don't know it, Greg is not a Jim Harbaugh fan, but there's the question anyway.
I can't answer that with Harbs and with Pep. I know, when we had the XFL team, you did a lot. The only time we were in DC was once training camp started. And let me take care of him. I'm sorry. Let me just see what's wrong with him.
Absolutely. Make sure your dog is fine. Again, that is Bennett, not really Chase Claypool barking. Bennett is a huge, monstrous dog, and he's very well trained. So if he's barking, he might be needing to go outside or whatever. But nonetheless, lots of great comments today. We've got 265 people watching live on YouTube, another 100 or so on X, and I don't know the number on Facebook, but many more. And then thousands will be watching on demand, and we appreciate every single one of you. And I go back and read the comments that are left after the show, so keep those coming. And if you got questions for Greg, please fire away. I've got 3 in the queue now, and we'll add more as your questions come in. All right. So let me ask Mike.
It's got to be dogs got to go out day.
Yeah, absolutely. My dog is now outside. Hopefully he's okay out there. But Mike wants
mine's outside too.
Mike has the longest.
Let's get back. Wait a minute, Aldo. Let's get back to Jordan's question. I don't know. What the relationship is with Pep and Harbaugh. I assume it's good. His daughter goes to Michigan. I don't know if Michigan is recruiting his son. He's got a bunch of scholarship offers. He's only a junior right now, but I don't know if Michigan's one of the schools that has offered a scholarship. But let's talk about Harbaugh for a second. The last 2 off seasons, Harbaugh's been begging to get a job in the NFL. That's the word behind the scene. I mean, begging.
Okay.
Nobody wants him.
Because
a weird dude. Very weird, strange guy. And what he did in San Francisco, that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been in the college game ever since. And it's just, our players, college players can respond to him. That doesn't mean a pro player is going to respond to him. And like I say, he's a different guy. I wouldn't touch him. They didn't even, last spring, they didn't even interview him in January.
Right.
Okay. And he thought he had one job locked up. Didn't even get interviewed. Oh, no, he got an interview and never got called back for a second one. And he thought he had it locked up, but he wants out of Michigan.
Yeah, and the reason he wanted out was because of the suspension that I think is about over now. But it is
over. He's back on the sidelines, but it's just that and some other things that were going on. And I think he's had his fill of the college game, and recruiting is tough now, and especially with NIL, it's just made it a thing. But don't ever. I won't be a fan if Harbaugh was the head coach. I detest the guy.
Jay Sanders says, well, Ditka wasn't the most sane guy, and he had success.
Totally different personalities.
Mm-hmm. So when you say that Harbaugh is crazy, can you kind of give us more of an inkling as to what that means? Is he?
I'm not going to get into that. Just that I don't think that pro players in today's game would respond to him very well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like I say, if he's been a success at Michigan, Nobody in the NFL wants him. I'm not saying here. Nobody. There's been jobs open. They don't want him.
Jordan says, does Greg not see Jim's tenure at Michigan as merit-worthy? I think he just answered that question. You do think it's merit-worthy, but maybe, NFL owners don't see it that way. They don't want to have anything to do with the guy.
There's been, when I say he's been begging, he's been begging. He's been trying to get out of there for 2 years and trying to get in the NFL. And no team has said, oh, okay, come on, Jim. Now, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
He's had success at Michigan, and they want no part of him.
Tareen has just informed us that the Bears press conference is now live. We will monitor it on this end, and if any important news gets across, I will flash it up on the screen, and we'll cover it in more detail tonight on Buffon 55. I got questions and lots of questions. So Free Palestine wants to know, what are your thoughts on Chase Claypool being released? Do you think he should be released?
Yeah, right now, If he's become a distraction, then yes. And he's not giving you, it's not really going to cost him anything. It costs him his salary. So, I mean, it's that part. It's not like you're going to get a big cap hit or anything like that because he wasn't extended. But like I say, if he's becoming a distraction in the locker room, it sounds as if the players like him, but I can't say that definitively. I know Justin is standing up for him. I can't say that about the other guys. But like we said it earlier, there's obviously a disconnect between him and the coaching staff, and for whatever reason. So, said there, Chase Claypool told him this morning. Actually, I think he told him Saturday. But, who knows exactly what the timing was, because he told him on Saturday not to show up on Sunday. But that came out on, he had his own opportunity. He could have come if he wanted to. And, so that was a big boo-boo on Flus's part.
Yeah, and I had a debate with someone, although the guy was not kind in any way. I want to know, because Luke Getsy said that it is Coach Eberflus and the general manager who make the decisions as to who is active and inactive. And it seemed to me that if those decisions are going to be made on Sunday, that the last person that should be involved in making that decision is the general manager, because the coordinators are instilling the game plan, the scheme. Right. And so I can see the general manager blessing it and asking questions first and then blessing it. But to me, the last guy that should be making decisions on who should be active and inactive should be the general manager. That should be the head coach and the coordinators. What do you think?
In all honesty, I don't know if Poles has a say in that. Generally speaking, the general manager has control over the personnel on the team. The coach has control over who plays. And that's, as long as I've been involved in the league, that's been the way it is. Could he make suggestions? I'd like to see this person up this week. Yeah. But I don't think, and really in reality, I don't know if Getsy really knows. Yeah, sure. I'm sure, Flus and Poles discuss it. But in most cases, and again, it's a contractual thing. So, if it's in Flus's contract that he is, going to make those decisions, he's going to make those decisions. Okay. Now we got here designated return to practice this week. Well,
Tevin Jenkins.
Yeah, there is no practice. It's a walkthrough on very light walkthrough type for a little more than walkthrough, but not much more. The thing with Tevin is, and if they've got, once he's been designated to return, you got 3 weeks to bring him back, or else you got to put him back down.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, if he would have practiced last week, I would say he's going to play this week. I know he was running on the sideline, but as far as if he wasn't designated to practice, then he did not practice at all last week. Is he an upgrade over Cody Whitehair right off the bat? Yes, but he still hasn't played in, 5 weeks now?
Yeah.
Really 6 weeks, because it was you had a week between opening game. And he didn't play in the last preseason game. And then you had a week between the last preseason game and the opening week, and he's missed 4 opening weeks, or 4 weeks of games. I can't even talk today. I'm so frustrated.
We all are. Swifty says he wasn't eligible to practice last week, but he's been doing conditioning for the last 3+ weeks. So
I would debate that, Swifty, and you may be 100% right, but I think in the 3rd week of a guy on IR, he can be brought back to practice, but I got to double check.
Swifty just joined us a little while ago and wanted to know, are you back supporting Justin Fields? Fair question, because we've had about 100 people join us.
I think I've already answered it, but I'll repeat it. You got to see more of what you saw yesterday.
Right.
I mean, was it going in the right direction? Yeah, but you got to see more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna throw that interception all on him, and I didn't like the play call where he lost the ball. That boot.
Awful call.
Yeah. So, anytime a play goes wrong, it's an awful call, right? I mean,
that's
the way it works.
Mike Withrow has issued some very lengthy, wordy posts, but I think that the gist of them is that he believes that the team is tanking. Do you believe that? If the draft were to be held tomorrow, the Bears would have the first 2 picks in the NFL draft. Do you think that perhaps there is a willingness on the part of Ryan Poles to not make any monumental moves, because adding 2 first-round draft picks in the top 5, maybe top 2, would be huge for this team, to bring in 2 superstars and a team that doesn't have superstars as of today? Your thoughts?
I would say I'm 1,000% positive nobody's in tank mode. People are trying to save their jobs.
Yes, exactly.
They want to win. And so they need to win. Perfect example. Put the camera on Poles up in Bears Control. Bears Control is right next to because that's where I used to sit. It's on the opposite side of the field is where the press box is, which is over in the corner. It's really where the TV cameras are. And right next to the right of Bears Control is the home team radio. So that's Thayer and Joniak. Then the next booth after that is the visiting team radio. And then the next booth is the TV booth, network TV booth. And then to the left is instant replay. So, but anyway, they put the camera on there and he's happy and he's joking. And it looks like he was joking with somebody in the radio booth because he was looking in that direction. So that would have either been Thayer or Joniak. But then later on, one of the guys, and I don't know who it was because his face was covered, he's like this.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that was the player.
It wasn't Cunningham. It wasn't Cunningham.
Josh Lucas? Was it Josh Lucas maybe?
No, Josh Lucas was part of the last regime.
Okay, so I got the name wrong. Okay, anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So I don't know who it was because I couldn't see the face, but Ian was there, and it, obviously a totally different mood going on, and they weren't
Jeff
happy.
King.
So
It was Jeff King.
Yeah.
Jeff
Okay.
King.
But you
yeah,
can't. You can't. I don't think they're even thinking about that. It's just, and anybody who would think about it doesn't understand the mentality of an athlete or the mentality of a coach.
All right, you would lose that locker room faster and fast if the Bears players got a whiff that was going on. Now, what did you make of the decision to elevate Tyson Bagent to the number 2 quarterback role? Can we read anything into that?
I think they feel he's ready. What I wonder is, even though he's quote number 2, is he doing the third quarterback reps, so being the scout team reps in practice, because that's more beneficial to him?
Indeed. All right, let's get to some other questions here. Cornelius says, Greg, Fields' interceptions look like miscommunication to me. What do you think? And I think Komet talked about that yesterday. He detected that the defensive team was in part zone, part man-to-man, and that Fields read it as a zone defense, and that's why Fields threw it to a place where he thought the tight end would be. That kind of miscommunication.
Is that on the last interception is referring?
Yes.
You're referring to that. Okay.
That's what I'm referring to.
I have not watched a replay of the game yet. So
yeah.
I
don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I might not either. There's certain tapes you want to burn. No, I can't answer it because I haven't watched the thing. Are some of his interceptions bad interceptions? Yeah. Good, but I can't talk for yesterday.
Yeah. And according to Jason Leisure of the Chicago Sun-Times, in response to questions about Chase Claypool, Eberflus says that being on time, being respectful, and working hard are core pieces of the organization's standards. So that pretty much answers it. Chase Claypool is a bad apple. Can't see him ever.
Say that in response to the questions. Says he's being on time, being respectful, working hard. It says he's doing everything right, is what he's saying.
No, I think what he's saying is that Eberflus was asked about Chase Claypool, and he says, well, being on time, being respectful, and working hard are core pieces of the standards of this organization. So that's probably he's either one or all two or three of those he hasn't been doing, and so they're just kind of fed up with his attitude. Huge investment. They've given him plenty of times. It's just time to move on, and we'd like to see what some of these young players can do. Here's another question for you. Can you confirm or deny that Ryan Poles hired Flus willingly? That's from J2K.
As far as I know, that was Poles' pick.
Because he was pre-interviewed by Bill Polian and the search committee, and so they had his interview recorded on Zoom. Poles said that he watched that interview and that Eberflus was already on his list of potential candidates. And then Poles went on to say that as soon as Eberflus walked into the room, he had a gut feeling, this is my guy, and that's how he followed up. So I'm sure Polian push for him, but I'm hoping that the Bears gave Ryan Poles full autonomy in making the decision.
As far as I know, that was his guy.
Okay.
And you just look at go back to the day he got hired and you watch the relationship. They've been hand in hand. So the hard part is that I'm because I don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And, so I'm going to throw a dart at the wall a little bit here, but the hard part is, does he still feel that way?
Yeah.
When he had that impromptu presser a couple of weeks ago, he was still standing on the table. Okay. Now I wonder if he's still standing on the table.
Yeah, well, you've got to give him pause. I think it was Mike Henneman. Yeah, Mike Henneman says if we get the first overall pick, there's no way the Bears would choose Justin over Caleb Williams. Your thoughts?
I think Caleb Williams is, and I wrote him up for Windy City Gridiron. And to me, he's a more mobile Patrick Mahomes. Now you go back and say, well, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes still didn't go till 10th pick in the draft. And there were some people that thought he was more like a 15 to 20 because you got to compare what he did in college, not what he's done as a pro. And part of that is Andy Reid. But Caleb Williams has got a lot of special. He's got excellent arm strength, reads the field well. Maneuverability is excellent. Now I got a dog barking who wants to come in the house.
You want to let him in?
Just take you a second. The door's right there.
No problem. Yeah, make sure you check out Greg's articles over at windycitygridiron.com. I think he does 2 articles a week, and I just spotted this tweet from Patrick Finley with the Bears. Coach Matt Eberflus go for it on 4th and inches again. He said he would. I, again, don't think that was the best decision. Take the lead, take the 3-point lead, and give the game over to your defense. I know that the Denver Broncos offense was playing really well in that second quarter, but you got to take the lead. And so there it is. I was just commenting on this tweet from Patrick Finley. The question was asked to Eberflus, would he go for it on 4th and inches again? And Eberflus said that he would. I just disagree with the call, but he's the coach.
He made the call, so he's gonna stick by it. Yeah, he's not gonna second guess himself, but he should. He just said, "Yeah, I should have. Yes. I should have kicked the field goal."
Exactly.
Hey, you kicked the field. You got a very accurate field goal kicker. And they were in that gimme range. So you kick the field goal, you're 3 points up. Okay, so they got to score a touchdown to win or to go ahead. And a field goal only puts it into an overtime situation. I think from an analytical point of view, you kick the field goal all the time on that one.
Yep. Over and over and over again. There's no doubt in my mind. Alfred wants to know, Gabriel, as a fan, is it crazy to feel like the Bears are effing JF1 over, or is he doing it to himself?
I think I've answered that 1,000 times over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, you have.
A lot of this is on him. And he's the guy who's got to, process the information, read the defense, get the throw off on time, not be afraid to make a throw, and do what he's capable of doing, and he hasn't done that. So that's on him. Now, yesterday you saw it was like a different player. Like, who's this guy? And there was times in those first 3 games it was almost like he's a rookie and it's like a deer in headlights.
Yeah. Swift makes a really good point here.
Okay.
I was just saying Swift makes a really good point. It's, the 4th and inches would have been more acceptable if they were doing it from under center as opposed to the shotgun. I'm not sure why Luke Getsy loves to run the ball out of the shotgun on 4th and short or 3rd and short plays.
I could agree with that. Now, it's what your play call going to be. Now, if they're expecting an inside run, and we've already played that play over 4 or 5 times, and the way they were slanting in, if you fake to the, do an RPO type thing, and he fakes and then takes off, be it left or right, his chances of getting the first are a lot better than just handing the ball off.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. I got some more questions I want to get to. And Jordan asked a really good one here. It's not Bears related, but can you talk a little bit about the college quarterbacks that you've written up over at Windy City Gridiron? Who's really stood out to you? Any traits among these Bears quarterbacks that might make them desirable for the Chicago Bears organization if they decide to move on?
I've only done 2 extensively. I've done more than that, but not enough to have a really good opinion. The other one is Drake May, and I think Drake May is damn good. His numbers this year are not as good as last year as far as TDs to interception ratio. Last year, I think he had 39 TDs and 5 interceptions, which is excellent. Completed 66% of his passes, threw for over 4,000 yards. This year, he's upped his completion percentage to 72.5%, I think, but he's only had 5 TDs and 4 interceptions. Now, I say he had the 4 interceptions in 2 games, and my opinion of those 4, 2 are on him and 2 weren't on him. Nonetheless, they're in the stat book, but I think he's got some special. If Caleb Williams isn't in this draft, he could be the top quarterback. He's got mobility. He doesn't have Fields or Caleb Williams mobility. Now, and just talking about Caleb, say to Justin, Caleb Williams isn't anywhere near as fast as Justin Fields, but he's got real quick feet and escapability and ability to move around and keep plays alive in the pocket. And he's got a feel for pass rushers that's rare. And then, some of the passes he makes, he attempts and then makes, you're like, what the fuck type plays? I mean, just wow plays. And he makes all the easy throws. So, I think he's rare. I said in my thing on Windy City, I think he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I think he's better than Trevor Lawrence. I would compare Drake May to Trevor Lawrence. Drake May I compare to Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert.
Wow.
Drake May's good player. And he doesn't have anywhere close to the supporting cast at Carolina that Caleb Williams has at USC.
Not that I am a proponent of the Bears trading Justin Fields, at least until we get to see him play more. But if his trade value was probably a day 3 pick, do you think his performance yesterday might have some offensive coordinators and head coaches saying, wow, I'd love to get my hands on Justin Fields, and I'll gladly turn over a 2nd-round pick for Justin Fields? You think that's a possibility?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. A lot of it's going to depend on, obviously the GM is going to have a say in it, but the people who are coaching them are going to have a say. And so it's what does the head coach think? What's the OC think? What's the quarterback coach think? And, you could be have a love fest, and you could have a guy that said, God, what I could do with this guy, and that drives value up.
Yeah. Got 2 more questions here I'd like to share with you. T3P podcast. Greg, do you think Flus has been given a fair opportunity? That's a great question because he was handed a gutted roster last year. Roquan Smith, who was a very good linebacker, and Danny Shimon pointed out yesterday that the Bears defense has played much worse since the departure of Roquan Smith, even with Tremaine Edmonds replacing him this year. So has Flus been given an unfair opportunity because of the roster he's been given by his general manager?
Well, it's not just Roquan. You had Quinn last year, at least up until the trade deadline, right before the trade deadline. But in fairness, Quinn didn't do anything, and then he got traded to Philly, and he didn't do a damn thing there. It's like he fell off a cliff, and he's not in the league right now. And that's just weird. How do you go from 18 and a half sacks one year to not being able to play the next year unless you're just not taking care of yourself?
I think there's some mental health issue. I sort of remember reading, and I apologize to Robert Quinn if I'm incorrect, but I think there's something going on from a mental health situation that's keeping him off the field.
That I couldn't tell you, but I just don't. Nobody has even attempted to sign him, and he's 34 years old or something. So, he's not going to get an opportunity again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is for sure. Matt asked an interesting question. Was Chase Claypool wrong for pointing out coaching for being an issue for his lack of productivity?
Yeah. Coaches seldom, if ever, throw a player under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Works both ways.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, Eberflus has been very diplomatic when talking about Chase Claypool over the last several weeks. He could have easily have thrown Claypool under the bus, talked about his lack of work ethic and so forth, but he didn't. And then Claypool, for some reason, says that there's a problem with how he's being handled.
It's a two-way street,
Mm-hmm.
and some people got to think before they talk.
Yeah,
part
exactly.
Is part of it's the position he plays. Wide receivers are just divas, and sometimes the media makes a lot more out of it. I'm not referring to Claypool in this one, like with Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
That was a media-driven controversy with him in Buffalo. It wasn't real.
Yeah. Jordan says, Claypool answered a question. You want him to lie? I think the issue here, Jordan, is that you want him to spin it. This isn't, he's not a political figure where we're asking for the truth. He's an employee of an organization. And when you're dissing the people that report to you, it's not a wise idea. He should not have said that. He should have diplomatically said, listen, I'd like to be used differently, but I'm always going to do what the coaches do, and I'm going to do it 100%. Next question.
And you know what happens then? It takes it off of him and puts it on the coaches without putting it on it, without saying it.
Right. There's just smarter ways to do this. And Greg, when you were with the Bears organization, did the communication staff ever consult with players? Hey, here's what the media is talking about. We suggest you handle it this way. Or is everybody out there on their own without any media training?
I don't recall, in all fairness. I'm going to say that in probably some touchy situations, there might have been, and I'll give you one example, a Tank Johnson situation where, his friend got killed and club downtown and, just stuff like that, there may have been some stuff going on. Hey, look, say this, don't say this, yada, yada. But could I say that I knew there was specific training? I don't know that. But in saying that, part of it, you do have a little bit. You got rookie school going on during the OTAs period. They can report on the 15th of May, and they're here a week and a half after the veterans leave, and they're not practicing. Mm-hmm. And they have, like, every afternoon you're out of the building, say by 2:00, but the rookies are there till 5:30 or 6 because they've got like classroom work and they've got different speakers coming in, and some are talking about how to save your money, how to use your money wisely, look for apartments, just living skills. And there's also part on what you say and what you don't say in the media. And so they're basically trying to help them to learn how to be pros or to start off their professional career.
Good stuff. I appreciate that, letting us know about that. Swifty has a question. Travis Gibson, people are blaming Poles for cutting him, but if the coaches didn't want him and listed him last on the depth chart, what was Poles supposed to do? Any thoughts on that?
Well, if Poles wanted him, he's got control over the 53. Mm-hmm. Now, in saying that, you force a player on a coach, it's never going to work. But there's two guys that are gone. One is on a practice squad. The other one's on a 53, Gibson and the other defensive end. And they had their pass rush during the preseason wasn't good. It was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's something that you could have been used. I mean, I remember doing preseason games. I thought Travis was a lock to make the way he was playing. I knew the gun was to his head because they didn't like the way he played last year. And I didn't like Poles statement he wasn't a scheme fit. Why wasn't he a scheme fit? He's athletic. He's the right size. He can play the run. They didn't want him for whatever reason.
Right. And just for the record, Travis Gibson has been active for 2 games for the Titans. He's played a total of 10 snaps and has a sack. I think that's going to wrap up this episode.
I'll take a sack at 10% of the time.
How about it? We've got 2 sacks in 4 games as a team. That is wild.
Khalil Mack had 6 yesterday.
Can you imagine that? He has, oh my gosh, 3 times. I had to do the math. It took me a while. 3 times the amount of sacks of the entire Chicago Bears team. He had 6 in 1 game. And the same thing with David Montgomery. He had 3 touchdowns against the Green Bay Packers last Thursday night, and he had 2 in his 4-year career with the Chicago Bears against the Packers. It just is Greg, do you believe in superstitions and voodoo? Because I do believe that the Chicago Bears have been cursed somehow. Really, I
don't know. What did you do in your previous life to create this curse?
Yeah, I wonder if it was Mike Ditka not giving the ball to Walter Payton so he could score a touchdown in the '85 Super Bowl, and somebody from the
ghost
Payton...
of Walter is
yes, he's doing something, because this has turned really comical. What the Bears have been doing. Any final thoughts before we get you out of here, sir?
Not really. You know what? It's disheartening. It's getting hard to even talk about it. You can't get enthused.
Yeah.
You try to be honest to give answers. And like we were talking about, making a change in the coaching staff or whatever, I tried to use my experience from the past that it's not an easy thing to do. And you can't just, if you're going to fire somebody, you better have a plan for the rest of the season, because there's still 13 more games to go. And you've got players in that locker room that are playing for their career.
All right. Yes, indeed.
So there's a lot to think about on that.
Yeah, and when you look at this schedule, after this Thursday's game, we've got 2 back-to-back home games, the Vikings and Raiders. And boy, oh boy, those would be great home wins if they can turn this thing around. And what are your expectations for Thursday night's game? Given the matchups on paper, this doesn't look like the Bears' best matchup on paper, at least.
I think it's, the offense for Washington doesn't do a whole lot for me, but their defensive front, I think, is going to eat up this offensive line. And it's going to be tough.
The Commanders, on average, are allowing 5 sacks per game. primarily because Sam Howell, their quarterback, has been holding the ball too long. So this is an excellent opportunity for the Bears.
And their left tackle is ex-Bear, Mr. Leno.
Oh, come on. I like Charles Leno.
So do I.
He's, when you list all the left tackles in the league, he's somewhere smack in the middle, which isn't saying a lot for today's current NFL regarding left tackles and the caliber of play. But it's hard to get a better
He's a rank and file tackle in the league.
Absolutely.
And he can play. He never misses games.
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch is so damn durable.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, you have to go back and look, but I don't think he's missed a game in years, unless he missed one last year and I forgot about it. But I know they talk about his durability all the time.
Yep, I think he's still got that playing streak going. Last question. Tooch wants to know, do you think that the Bears have even considered firing Eberflus mid-season? You think that Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles have gotten into a room together and said, "Oh, well, this is a what-if situation"?
That's too hard to answer.
It's a guess.
Could the conversation have gone on hypothetically of, well, do you think we ought to make a change? Yeah, but then one thing good about Kevin, and I don't know the man, but he's been with two other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around. He has a lot more experience coming into this job than Ted Phillips had, who was learning on the go, and an entirely different personality. He's so much more of a people person than Ted could ever think about being. And I got along with Ted well. I would not say a strong point of Ted Phillips was that he was a real good people person. And where I think that is an extremely strong point with Kevin Warren.
Yes, indeed.
And he can communicate. Look, if those discussions have gone on, do you think we're going to ever find out about it? Of course not. Have they gone out? I would say the subject has been brought up, but in how serious? Because having been on a team that's similar, and we're talking 2003, which we ended up winning 6 games, I think. We won 1 out of our first 6 games. So, a lot of similarities.
Zach, go ahead, please.
Would I take the Bears GM job? No.
But would you take an assistant GM job? Let's say Ian Cunningham at the end of the season leaves the Chicago Bears organization. Ryan Poles calls you up and says, "I want you at my side for the 2024 season."
You know what the problem is? Would I love to do it? Yeah. The problem is I can't go on the road because of certain
health
things. Yeah. And I mean, for an extended time. And you got to go on the road. And so, it'd be very difficult. What I like to do, I can do an awful lot right here where I'm sitting and get a lot of work done. So, no team is going to do that. I'm 72 and a half years old. So, there's things I can do and there's things I don't want to do. And one thing I don't want to do, I mean, not only can I not go on the road, I don't want to go on the road.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like it here at home. People have been saying, "Hey, I got tickets for the Bears game." No, I like it here at home. I'll watch it here at home and turn it off.
It's like, I was watching the Ryder Cup yesterday, which is always exciting.
Oh, love it.
And, there's 50,000 people there or something. And, people say, "God, I'd love to go to an event like that." And I'm going, why? You see one shot every once in a while where you see everything on television.
Exactly.
I've been to PGA tournaments. You can follow one group around or whatever, but you're missing a whole lot more.
Oh, absolutely. And if you, let's say I went to the Western Open and the crowd around Tiger Woods, you couldn't get close to see him swing. You just, had to peer over people's heads and so forth. I went to one Western Open where they had the hospitality tent, the VIP tent, whatever it was called. And it was at the 18th hole. So you saw all the players coming in for the 18th hole, the final hole. And that was fun, but yeah, you missed so much.
I was at an old Western Open. I'll tell you the year. Maybe it was the same year.
Wow.
It was 2003.
No, I was 1989 and 90 and 91, those 3 years.
Oh, okay. I was there because I took my daughters and we did follow Tiger. Now I was at the PGA at Medina, and my buddy had they had tents, along the 18th fairway on the right side of the fairway. And he had a corporate tent right at the landing area, the driving landing area. So it was so you had a great view of the green, great view of it was ideal. But that, unless you got out of that area and walked around, that's all you saw was people playing the 18th hole.
And it was a very, very disappointing Ryder Cup for the Americans yesterday. They got off to a horrible start and could not come back, although they did make it somewhat interesting in the final day, the singles matches. But they have not won on foreign soil, European soil, in 30 years. 30 years. That's amazing.
Yep.
Wow. Got to change that around.
Yeah. I was thinking about it because, Tiger, being that he's won majors and stuff, he's eligible. He's captain of President's Cup. He's never done a Ryder Cup. The next one on foreign soil is 27. I'd rather have him captain on an away event than a home event.
I agree.
Number one, I saw the way the team responded to him when he was the captain of the President's Cup team. And they were like afraid to lose.
That's Tiger.
And so it's like, if I screw up, he's going to be so disappointed in me. And like, he's the guy, that I think just from that point of view, I know we're not talking football, but so what? You got to talk about something nice. And
something interesting.
From that point of view, I'd say, let's see if Tiger can be the guy to break the streak.
Yeah, and I think
break the drought, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, in foreign soil, I think he would take a lot of the attention away from the players, and maybe they could play a little less stress-free, because that's the amazing thing. For those of people who have never watched the Ryder Cup before, if you love sports, you have to watch the Ryder Cup, at least some of it, because the pressure is so damn intense on these players. And that's what is the epitome of all sports, is how does the athlete, and I'll call golfers athletes, how do they respond to such incredible pressure? And they're not playing for money. They're playing for pride, nationalism. It's really a fascinating 3-day event.
Well, they don't get paid, but they get, $200,000 is donated to charities on their behalf for each player. And they get a lot of endorsement money off of this thing, so there's money they get from being on the team, but they're not, going back, they should be paid. That event takes in gazillions of dollars. Okay. So there's a lot of people making money, and the most important people aren't getting it.
Yep. That's very, very true. And by the way, the Ryder Cup in 2027 is in Ireland.
I know. I was going to say that. I looked that up. And actually, it's not a links type course. It's a, course more similar to this one, or when they play it here, more. Now they're playing, the next Ryder Cup is at Bethpage Black, which
Ooh.
is a links course.
Yeah.
That's a tough. Now that course is a bitch.
They failed the U.S. Open once or twice there. Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, everyone. Want to remind you, Buffon 55 tonight at 7 p.m. I've actually got to get some work done in preparation for that show, so I'm off to do that. And I want to thank Greg Gabriel for another incisive look at these Chicago Bears. It is getting tougher and tougher to do these. Hopefully, next time we're together, we're talking about a win because we desperately need one. Take care, Greg.
Oh, big time. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.